How much time do you spend on the front lines fighting in percent?
Oh god, probably less than 10%.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man, like 1%, less than 1%.
Right, click my name and check my activity log. And look at my enemy player damage. Not much, I'll be honest. Sometimes I go there for a break, but yeah, not a lot.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Oh my god, I'm gonna get exposed. 70%, I think. Yeah, 70% for facility work and 10% combat.
If I looked at like my total time that I've actually spent in the game, it's probably about like 50-50 right now. It's kind of hard to tell because, like, like frontline fighting, you do it for like 2 hours and it feels like 50 days have gone by. Like I'm pretty sure I've done Logi for like 5 hours today and it's felt like I just started.
If we're going by like total of my playtime, I think it's like maybe 35% on the front line and like 65% in the back line. And it definitely changes from like war to war how much I want to do.
Yeah, what's your playing time? Could you just give a reference?
I would like to not answer that question.
Okay. That's a good, no, that's a good answer. I like it. Hey guys, Targus here, and I've got a bold claim for sure, but hear me out. For the people who play Foxhole, this might be eye-opening and an introduction to an aspect of a game that you knew almost nothing about, or thought it irrelevant. But for the building, factory, farm, logistics sim players, you might be wondering why would I recommend a game that is obviously a war sim PvP game. The thing is that Foxhole is a war sim game, but it does itself a disservice by not showing the other half. And when I say half, I really do mean half as an equally important half of the game. Most PvP games give you an infinite amount of ammunition, or you buy it from an endless supply pool. We were conditioned that ammo needs to exist, but who's gonna go through the hassle of actually making or even less delivering it? If you want a game where you mine and refine resources, build factories, you have Factorio or Satisfactory. If you want to be the one who delivers goods, you have truck simulator games. If you want to do all of that, but on a macro scale, like building roads, bridges, piers, manage warehouses and deal with supply and demand, you have City Skylines and similar games. But Foxhole managed to encompass all of that into a single game, from ore to tank or a power plant, all the way to superstructures like weather stations or even V2-like rockets. There is a huge production cycle that you can immerse yourself in and never even fire a single bullet, and have actual impact on the world around you. Create a first aid kit, and somewhere a medic will use exactly that kit to patch up a wounded comrade. In Foxhole, you can spend thousands of hours without even going close to where the fighting is. I met logistic generals who never did frontline combat. Players who played solo for years and enjoyed themselves. Everything you'd want in a production sim game, with the difference that everything you create has an actual use and impact on the grand scale of things. You aren't creating and delivering items to an NPC with a question mark above their head just to complete a checkmark. I interview random players in a street-like survey setting, asking questions about their perspective on Foxhole's non-combative part of the game, and this is what they said. So, first question, you log into the game doesn't give you a quest. How do you decide what you need to do?
Well, one of the most important things to always look at is I like to use the I forgot what it's called. There's like a map online where you can like see how many casualties there are now. Then from I just kind of just get into a zone where like it's not a frontline zone, And I'll just kind of look at, like, do they need people like helping out with Artie? Do they need people at the front line? Do they need supplies? Are they getting all this stuff? And just kind of looking at, like, what is it that they actually need? Because sometimes, like, as much as you want to run logi, sometimes they just need people fucking shooting. But then there's also other times, like today, like today I was just like, hey, I want to run logi, so I'm just here, Right now I'm kind of like fill up a bunch of stuff so I can go down there, fill up a shipyard, and then just bring them literally all the fucking logi that they could ever need.
You should set your own goal. What should you make? What should I make for myself to explore what these facility made items are meant for? Like, do I want to? Do I want to produce a certain tank that is made in a facility? Sure, I should do that. I should focus on that exact thing. Do I want a certain tank which is far more better than hammering it out from a garage? Yes, that is my goal. You should, when you go on your game thinking on something what to do in facility work, you should also or you should always think on a certain goal as always.
I normally find myself doing a bit of general logistic stuff, and if people are around, I'll go kill people, but really it's just running a factory. It's just managing the factory is usually the first priority. So I do some general logi stuff. I also do, well, I mean, I built all the bunkers here, so I did help build most of this region. So I guess it's more of a meta, overall war meta that does it. If a bunker needs to be built, I'll build a bunker. If a factory needs something, I'll manage the factory. If, that sort of thing. I look at it, I guess you could say that I look at it from like the, from the big map, right? I'll look at all the regions and say, okay, what's going on over here? How do I help? You can actually produce useful things, right? Because you have a game like Factorio, you make stuff, but it doesn't really do anything. So when someone tells me, like, okay, Foxhole does that, but also you kill people with the stuff you make, right? So I just got into the factory stuff and decided, well, I can do this, and it's just... It's a bit more interesting for me personally than, you have a bunch of other games, Call of Duty stuff, like, oh yeah, you get into a lobby, you shoot people.
Well, so I am in a regiment that's also in a coalition of players. So I will usually look at our stockpiles and see what we need. If we need like basic materials, like explosive materials, and the things to just make weapons. If we're lacking those, I'll go getting into making them. Or if we just need like weapons, munitions, and that sort of thing, I'll go to the factories and start producing them.
I believe that depends on which type of player are you. Do you prefer to play it passive? In that case, you go scripted. If you want to do some driving, then you just drive your lodge away. If you prefer to hammer stuff into Oblivion, you either get a shovel and help others, or you do the hard work by hammering stuff away.
Okay, next question. What motivates you to do logi? Where do you get your sense of accomplishment from?
There was a cut-off front line where, like, basically they were just encircled. They had like 2 tiles and a hex, and they were just bleeding shirts like crazy. And my buddy had a friend who played Foxhole that I kind of like, got into it with. He explained logi and stuff to. And me and him, we basically just grabbed a hauler, filled them with shirts and B-mats, and just drove straight through enemy lines, getting shot at, like driving past tanks, everything. And when we got there, they treated us as if we were literal angels sent by God. And I was like, this is exactly what I want. Like, this is who I want to be,
It's a bit awkward compared to other games, because every single grenade, all the ammo, all the stuff that you actually use in game, it doesn't spawn, right? It has to be player made, so someone has to do it, and it's nice to see that, you can actually make stuff. And whether I'm just making it and throwing it into a stockpile and having it get used, and you see fronts move and that sort of thing, it's really weird, because a lot of the times I feel like I'm not really doing anything, right? Because, I put 100 crates of frag grenades in there. how many of those are actually going to get used? How many of them are going to get yeeted at something and miss completely? It is a really unusual situation. So it's honestly, I just find it enjoyable to do this kind of thing.
I am being a part of a bigger machine. I am as useful as anyone else, be it at the front lines, which I don't have the hands for, than anyone else. I am gathering materials for others to use. I am being useful.
So I think that's like one of the things that the devs really hit on, like the hit of the nail on with this. It's that when like in other games where like you have logistics system like Squad for example, it's a lot more like built around the battle. The entire idea about the logistics, like you deliver these supplies now, and that will lead to like the match being over in a certain amount of time. Difference is that in Foxhole, it's the only game that I played where it really feels like you are making a difference in a war. Like your actions are affecting other players in a way that isn't really conveyed in a lot of other games. And I think that's a really interesting part of the game that the devs have managed to nail. Like the entire macro part of logistics that is then like that goes down the entire line into the like small parts of just delivering the supplies to the bunker base that needs them. It creates like a sort of like rewarding feeling when you get into it, of feeling like, yes, I facilitated this, I facilitated these gains. It was because of my actions that we were able to push this front and we were able to make a difference.
It really depends on how you drive yourself to be motivated to work for the pub or work for your own faction, to help the faction out in any means necessary. It's either submitting some basic materials into public so that they could use it from different stuff, maybe making guns, making certain uh, buildings that is required by BMATs or needed for BMATs to build it or something. Is for me, it's oh wait, it's really up to me. If you feel like appreciated enough to help out the public, that's enough motivation for me to continue logistics. Without logistics, in my opinion, nothing would actually not no no nothing no fronts would be actually well defended or well staged for an attack or something. Like why should you not do logistics? Why should you not do logistics? Transport your materials, making stuff or making weapons and stuff. You feel appreciated helping out the entire faction. That's enough motivation for you to continue this game as a logistics person, a backliner. In my own in my own opinion, when I talk about scoopers in the backlines.
Next question. How do other players impact your play session?
Well, it's basically everything from big to small. It's like so logistics would not be nearly as fun if the only reason I was doing it is so that I could progress, right? But like knowing, for example, that you're helping somebody else, like there's somebody out there right now using one of my Lowcasters to put a hole in a collie, right? For example, like that's like a big driving force. But also like there's small parts where like you'll be making shipping containers to put on a barge or sorry on a freighter, and somebody else will come over and they're also about to make one and they just help you build it. Or you're making a hauler because you don't have any, right? And somebody else will help you build it. Or you go and help somebody do it and they commend you, you commend them, whatever. But it's also, then people put stuff into public stockpiles. So, people, they just want to play backline. So, you can basically do that job of you come here, you grab all the stuff out of the public stockpiles and then just ship it wherever it needs to go. So in Factorio and Satisfactory, stuff like that, it's connected to a sense of progression. You basically, you see numbers go up, you level different stuff up, you can build more stuff, you can research, stuff like that, and then eventually you have that rocket at the end. At Factorio, for example. But like here, it's still like a sense of progression because, you can see, the numbers of shirts that you're making or whatever going up, right? But it's also that sense of progression where you're working towards that thing also depends on the other players because you can't see your direct impact, right? Like I can't like look at the map and see, oh, my Laucaster or my physician's uniform or my blood plasma was used here. But I know that at the end of the day, when I put that stuff in a bunker base, in a relic, or wherever else I put, if somebody uses it, that is helping the war get along. So it's kind of same, but rather than working towards your own progression in the game, you're working towards like your team's progression. I like the feeling of knowing that there's a guy out there running around with a physician's uniform using my blood bags to make sure of our boys, makes it home to his family, so to say.
Sometimes people are really helpful, and you can have regions come together and like, oh, there's a defense project. Okay, let's get the shovels out. Everyone dig this. Everybody build that. Okay, it gets done real quick. I mean, for the most part, all of the defenses in this region were dug by, it wasn't dug by one group, right? So building things, moving things, generally people are really helpful if you ask questions or if somebody is probably willing to show. I mean, if new players came around here, I would show them around and say what's up. And the same thing with a lot of people you would see in like Clan's Headers or other Logi towns. It was the war that was immediately following the naval update. Our base was in the Pike, it's currently a sulfur field. It was a coal field. And the oil well off to the west of it was a comp field. So, we went through our claim on works. We ended up getting it. And there was another group there that was also wanted to build, and they were kind of new to facilities. But, it didn't really bother us at all that they were there. There's plenty of resources for that. So, anyway, they turned out to be some really nice people, and we went on to do quite a lot of stuff with them over the course of that war. And, I actually still talk to some of those guys, and if, we need something, and just helping supply things and helping. It was also a different time zone, right? So we would mine coal in our time zone, and it would be done processing in theirs. So we kind of flipped it.
That depends a lot on how you handle those situations. Sometimes you get people like this. Polar logi. That is stuff. There's hammers on the back. There is also no, you're good. There's also people on the road. It's nice to interact with them. There's also the chat, which you can be silly about. It's nice.
Right. So when I first started playing this game, I didn't really know what to do. So like in the usual spirit of it, I went to the front line and had a bit of fun there. But then I kept seeing these messages in the logistics chat asking for more supplies and like needing this here and all that. And that created like a sense of like wanting to try and experience that. And so I went into the logistics system not knowing anything, and it was a bit confusing at first because it's a huge system that has a lot of moving parts. But what I quickly found was like the moment I started asking people for help, they immediately wanted to help me. It was one message in World Chat about how do I do this, how to do that, and I was flooded with a bunch of different messages, basically of people saying, I'll come over to you to teach you. And that was a really cool feeling of like feeling the community and it being so welcome. And that quickly translated over into like me getting a basic grasp of how the logistical networks work. And that then led me to basically being able to do a lot of the work like solo. Like I could do a lot of the chain processes on my own. And I could then, when I joined regiments, I then got into the part where I could take it to another level. I can still do it in like my own way, but I can also include other people and like be one of the cogs in a great system. And I've even gotten to the point where I've led certain operations around logistics, like mass production, mass scattering of materials, and all that. And it sort of creates like this environment where that you can pick and choose how you want to do it. If you're very much into like the cooperative elements of gaming, you could get into regiments and do like mass logistics for either like a regiment, a coalition, or like large fronts. Or you could just choose to be like a solo guy that gets in a truck, grabs some supplies and drives them down, or creating like basic materials in the back line or the crates for them for the public.
How viable is to be a solo Logi player in Foxhole? Can it be done to some meaningful effect?
If you just want to do general logistics, using a refinery, getting basic materials. There's, I do solo stuff a lot of the time. It's fine. The issues that you'll run into are trying to get large amounts of high explosive, that kind of thing. But generally speaking, unless you're trying to build tanks and stuff like that, in mass production orders, there's not really anything wrong with it. There are some things that you won't be able to get, like facility related products, but everything else is fine. There's plenty of places on the map. Like right now, Great Warden Dam has a salvage field and 3 salvage mines. Go up there and get all the salvage you want and throw it right into the refinery and come back in a few hours.
Oh, of course, definitely to a meaningful effect. I still remember it was my first war. It was War 87, and some people that I was thinking of joining up with were pushing down in Callahan's Passage near the procession, and I saw that there was a call out for shirts because the front bunker base was running out of them. So I went all the way from, at that point, it was Jade Cove where I got the shirts. I drove a truck 3 hexes over and got to the bunker base just as it was starting to run out and they were getting pushed. And because that I delivered those shirts, it made the difference and gave them the ability to keep pushing and stop the position from falling. And that's just one of the experiences that you get where that your actions alone leads to an impact on the front. And it doesn't always have to be the big changes that you see. Sometimes it's just the small things, like giving basic materials for people to work with, or delivering the supplies here, or just being a chain in it all that leads to the massive changes on the front. So being solo is definitely very viable.
If you want to get into facility stuff, not really. If you want to be a simple logi driver, yes, absolutely. If you want to screwball alone, yes, you can do that. But it's always very centered about the masses doing stuff in groups.
Think about this. You could either run around for 15 minutes, die every 3 minutes, and you've used up 5 rifles, you've maybe killed 1 guy per life, you've gotten 5 kills. Or you could give 50 players, just you as a solo player, 50 players every 15 minutes, the opportunity to make a change, whether that be hop in a tank, dig a trench, repair a bunker, whatever it is. And that's just as a solo. So, while having a big group of people, having a whole supply chain of logi is definitely more efficient. If you want to have a huge impact on the game, then a solo logi, without, let's say you yourself just want to have an impact without anybody else. Solo logi is the best way to do that. Because, that's just shirts. Let's say you're also making guns, and you're delivering exactly as many guns and ammo as that shirt needs. Even if those people only have a low cast, and don't have any of the other fancy stuff that they need, poking holes in collies has never been easier.
Next question. Foxhole resets at the end of the war and everything you've built gets removed. How does this impact you and everything you've done?
Starting over is always nice, although not many people want that, and I can understand why. It's just what it is.
Well, for me, if you did something for the faction itself already, and you accomplish your goals, you accomplish your desired things to do, then a new clean slate is enough to make a new achievement in the next war. I like new wars to be resetted. I know buildings are going to be deleted. Well, what's the point of having a war game if there's no one winning? It's just endless fighting, back and forth or something. But for me, every war has its own story. So you can do something way more different than you did last war or this current war. you could always see what you do in the next war. What should I do in the next war? What am I capable enough to be more efficient than last war or the next war? Like, I know it's really bad that seeing your achievements, the ones you built, the ones you made are completely gone in one snap. But think about it. It's either if you lose the war or if you won the war. But for me, it's your own achievement. You did something already, which is, let's say you are pleased, you are happy that you made that specific thing, that contribution or an item, like maybe helping out the logistics, helping out the front, more than that, more and more or less, anything that you made in the game is already an impact. Like just simple things are already an impact. Even like submitting something in the seaport.
It is kind of a pain in the ass to rebuild all the defenses, and honestly, I feel that it's more of a problem of waiting for tech. It's also one of those situations where everything changes, and, you know, the maps themselves change too. Like, the importance of a region is largely in part based on its resources, whether or not there's a refinery, where the oil platforms are, um, where the victory points are, whether it's like an east versus west war or that kind of thing. So there are cool things about it changing. If it was a bunker that was holding a front, which I've had happen before, then it's, well, hey, we held the front. You know, we held long enough for the other side to push. So it's kind of like, I'd rather have it live to the end of the war than get blown up by the enemy.
I think it's honestly one of the things that really makes me love this game, because even like you could definitely view it as things getting repetitive, like after a certain amount of wars, like the style of it. But because you can choose a different lane, you can choose a different style of doing it every single war, it always feels like there's something new and fresh to do. So the wars resetting really helps like keep you engaged in the game, and it helps reinforce a lot of the game mechanics in such a cool way that's not really that like I don't really experience it in the same way in any other games. I played a lot of the game called PlanetSide before, and in PlanetSide it's a continuous war, kind of like Foxhole over maps. But the big difference between like Foxhole and PlanetSide is that PlanetSide is just based entirely around the combat mechanics, and the part of it where like you capture a planet and it is locked and then you have to reset it to do everything, it's just the positions on the map that gets reset. There's nothing else about it. It's not your progress, it's not the amount of materials you gathered, it's not the like tech advancements you made, the tank lines you held, and the supplies you had. It feels like it doesn't feel like a true reset. It feels more like now we're just shuffling the pieces around. Whereas in Foxhole, it really feels like you are beginning a new adventure, like a new war that you have to win, and you have to start entirely from the bottom to get there, and you have to put in the work to get like to do it. And it's a really cool feeling that the devs have managed to capture, of like actually feeling like it's simulating like advancements of a war. And I don't really think that, as I've said before, that there's another game that really does it in the same kind of way. I think the closest you could ever come to that is like EVE Online, because that's a very persistent game that has war mechanics. But EVE Online is an entirely different beast, and it's not nearly as approachable as something like Foxhole is.
It's an opportunity to do it again, right? Because at the end of the day, if it all just kept going forever, that would get boring at some point too. Like if all just sit here and you had like the highest tech and everything, you were just running around producing like, you know, whatever high tier stuff that you want. And like at some point you'd be like, ah, this is kind of boring. But because everything just kind of goes away and gets Thanos snapped, you can come back with a fresh mindset. Or like, you know, if you're a person that doesn't really like building up that much, you can just leave it to the people that do and like join back like 5 days into the war or something. Yeah, like, you know, like either, you know, you can say, oh, I'm doing logi for this one and then I'm doing this for the next one. Or, you know, like as you said, you could be sitting here doing logi and all war, and then at the start of the next war, what you're doing is you're all over the front lines helping everybody dig and build.
Okay, next question. Why not play a factory or truck simulator or a city builder game? Why do all of this in Foxhole?
Those games are either single player, right? I mean, you can do whatever you want there. Well, Foxhole is way different. It's always multiplayer. It's 24 hours running, and even if you're sleeping, something is going to happen, like really something. It might be push from a certain region, maybe we were pushed from another region or something. But in the sense of logistics and things, you are actually contributing to many people, like a lot of people. Imagine that. Imagine you're just grouping and you're not thinking that, oh man, I've been scooping for the past 3 hours for public, or when I say scooping, gathering materials. Okay, it's like that. So imagine that you've been doing you've been doing work, a contribution enough for everyone to see that, oh, nice, nice, nice. Everything I did was worth it. I helped someone, I helped the faction to push a certain location, to help a certain area, either from the in a sense of logistics or in a sense of combat. Unlike single player games, oh, surely you would experience that. I'm having fun. That this game is single player, which is wow. I like it. I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. But the unique thing is in Foxhole, you are actually contributing to many people. That's why I like playing this game. Like maybe 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 for new players, sure, they might not know that, oh, maybe I'm not really contributing enough. Maybe I'm just like a I'm just a little insignificance to the most people that are actually playing this game. But in reality, everyone has its contribution. That's my point. Everyone has a contribution.
But it's like, again, it's different, because like in Euro Truck Sim, right? When I deliver like 20 tons of chemicals to some plant in Romania, like, I'm not doing that for a player. Also, the only thing again is like that I get money out of it, and then I can buy more trucks, right? Which, like, don't get me wrong, it's not bad by any means, but it's just like, eh. But like here, you're actually having an impact on the players. That's what like differentiates it. This here is different because it's also dynamic, right? The most dynamicity, or whatever the word is, I guess, like, that you'll ever get out of Euro Truck Sim or American Truck Sim is a dynamic event where the police like shut off a highway lane because there was a crash and you have to reroute once every 8 hours, or there's some rain or something. Like here, there's partisans on the front line, there's backline logistics, there's people needing different stuff. Maybe somebody setting up a push, or somebody unexpectedly ran out of stuff, and now you have to make a very specific thing to get to a specific place to basically like save the entire front line on that hex.
I mean, city builders are fun. You build a city, you do stuff. It doesn't, like I said, there's not really much interactive stuff there in games like that. You haul a truckload of whatever the game tells you it is. In Foxhole, you have a truckload of ammunition or something, and it's all going to. There's more to it, I guess. It isn't just like hauling mundane cargo that just gets vaporized once it gets there. You have you find a dude with a yellow exclamation point above his head, and then he says, "Hey, get me something," and then you drive to one place and pick it up and drive back, and it's like, well, okay, what did that do? So as opposed to just hauling a mundane cargo, you're actually helping push the fronts, helping repair the bunkers, dig the bunkers, all that jazz. It's just the logistics system that's interesting to work with. There's a bit, like, I guess the bold question is, there's more to it than just hauling mundane cargo. You're doing it for a reason, not just because some NPC asked you to do it.
So I think the main point on that, and it's actually something that I thought about a lot about before this. I think the main difference is that in those games you're working for yourself, whereas here you're having a tangible difference on other people. It's sort of like the difference between like giving yourself a gift and then giving someone else a gift. Like some you can definitely feel like the joy that you get from helping other people, interacting with other people, and doing stuff that helps or has an impact on other people. And I played, for example, games like Euro Truck Simulator or City Skylines, and they're cool, but I find myself growing like sort of like tired of them more quickly than I do Foxhole. I'm close now to having put 3,000 hours into this game, and I think that the reason why Foxhole has kept my attention, whereas a lot of other games that work around like the same kind of like logistical routes as this game does, I think the reason it held my attention as much is because I can feel that difference, like that I'm making a difference, that I have an impact, and it's a feeling it's very hard to describe how it really feels. But when you see yourself making a difference and helping something that is like greater than yourself, it's euphoric in a sense. Like you get this great feeling in yourself, and it's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people stick around for this game as long as they do. 'Cause you get bit into it and you feel that validation that you're helping in a sense that you don't get from these games that are more like based around single player.
Would you consider Foxhole a construction management sim game?
Oh, absolutely. If you just want to manage a facility or you just want to do logistics, you don't necessarily need to do every step of it. You can just deliver stuff to the front lines. You can just build on the front lines. You can help build the back lines. It doesn't really matter what you do. If you're helping out and doing something useful, it's beneficial to the team. So this facility, for example, managing this is something I could do exclusively for the entire war without ever killing an enemy player. Yeah, this facility is making a lot of the facility related products, and I'm just basically sending stuff to the front, this is a different part of the system than what you would make in a normal factory.
Yes, it is a sim game. It's all about war. It's all about engaging another nation or a faction in either a war of attrition or in a war of, in a sense that you are enjoying this game. So about the regiments, yes, there. If you want to experience what is management in this game, you have to try facilities. You will see that the amount of management you would think, or you would let's say you would what do you call that, remember, the things you would remember, the things you need to know or need to do at a certain point. So in a sense, let's say I would like to manage my facility. I have to do this certain task. I have to produce this certain task for that certain goal I wanted for that facility. If it's in basic logistics, I want to produce certain uh, weapons or equipment, but I need those resources first. But for me, it's always going to be a time management for me. I don't think this game is really like a sim game, unlike uh, Factorio. Factorio has an in-depth mechanic on things, while this it's kind of it has its uniqueness because you can make materials like in a multiplayer game. Then you could give it to a certain person around the world that is playing this game. Like sim management, it really depends.
Well, that depends on the kind of way you want to play it. There are facilities in this game, and I'm not the most knowledgeable person on facilities, but I know that a lot of people. There's a reason why some people call like this game Foxtorio, because you can definitely get that like building a massive production hub and making stuff. You can definitely get that experience in the game. You could also choose not to. You could get like the truck simulator experience, or like another game that's more like based around gathering materials and all that. I think that's one of the strongest parts about Foxhole, and especially its logistical loops. It's that you can pick and choose what kind of like food you want to eat. Like if you're more into the Factorio style of play, you can go do facilities. If you like Euro Truck Simulator or games like that, well, you can go drive supplies to the front. Or if you're just into like gathering materials and having fun like that, which is like Stardew Valley kind of games and that sort of stuff, well, you can go and you can work the fields and you can gather materials and all that. It's so cool how they've kind of like managed to take different systems from other games and kind of combine them into one game and have them all work together.
I guess so, yes. I would believe this to be a big management simulator. The thing is, the word management sim is very broad in this case. You can manage anything, everything, and anyone.
Would you recommend Foxhole to somebody who plays factory or city building games?
I mean, I honestly would recommend Foxhole to really anyone. Because I'd be like, hey, you know, you play Factorio or City Skylines, you know, you build all these, like, lines, like, production lines and stuff like I play, you know, Logi and Foxhole, you want to join me? Like, you know, it's also a production line, but it's even more involved. Because not only are you the guy getting the raw resource, you're processing it, you're taking those BMATs, turning it into stuff, you're loading it into trucks or ships or whatever, and you're bringing it to the front lines. You are the entire production chain. So it's like Factorio, but it's even more unpredictable and there's even more options for stuff to do.
The thing is, yes, you could always do logistics only. I mean, there's nothing to stop you to do only logistics, because there's no certain rules. You should only do that thing. You should only do infantry. No. You decide whether you want to play backlines or frontlines. But for me, yes, you're highly able to play logistics only.
I think it's absolutely worth a try. It isn't for everyone. That's something that needs to be said. It is something that you can sink a lot of time into, and it's very easy to do things poorly, and it takes a bit of a learning curve to doing things efficiently. I see a lot of people that kind of struggle with, collecting salvage or something. So if you're willing to give it some time and actually learn the systems, it's a lot of fun because it looks really overwhelming. And even if you don't like to fight, there's a lot of other stuff to do besides just fighting on a front line. There's a lot of scouting, construction of vehicles or other things like that, or just even hauling stuff around. So it has a lot of that simulation stuff to it, but it is just for a greater cause than, the NPC told me to.
Oh, 100%. Honestly, I'd recommend Foxhole to just about anyone out there, because it's an experience that I don't really think there's any other game out on the market that gets even close to giving you the kind of experience like Foxhole gives. There's a reason why you see people in this game with like the average amount of hours probably being around 1,000 hours in the game. Like there's a reason why people stick around. There's a reason why people love this game and why the community are so loyal and show such appreciation for the game as they do. And it's because there's no other game kind of like Foxhole, and it really scratches like the niche that a lot of people really want for this type of game and gives you an experience that's really unlike any other.
Pretty much. The thing is that Foxhole is a very hit or miss game. You either have a great time with it or you just absolutely hate it, and it's very dependent on what do you do, because you can stay at the front lines all of your game time and really be doing nothing, or you can spend like 5 minutes at the logi backlines, find a couple people, and it's suddenly the best thing ever because you're doing a convoy, because I don't know, you're having memes with the guys.
I believe so, because you've got that chaotic element of having to work with other people. Whereas in SimCity, you have total control over everything in the city, and you can just set it up perfectly. You could Google a guide and say, hey, this is how to set up the perfect city in the first level of SimCity or whatever. And it's like all the thinking's been done for you.
What pushed you away from frontline fighting and into this kind of work?
Oh, that's I really want to say this, but it really depends on the situation in certain front lines. It's because who knows? You could say we're losing on a certain side, but to be fair, I really hate doing frontline because it's not fun. Sometimes it's not fun for me to do solo for once because I usually play with certain people, like in my regiment or my close friends. It gives a reason for me to play frontline because I'm with my friends. Doing solo, yeah, you could shoot, you could do something in the front line, I guess, but that's not my interest that much. Like, mm, shooting, doing, maybe helping out other regiments doing operations, something like, oh,
It's not, I wouldn't say I was pushed away from it. I was just drawn to managing something else. It's not that I dislike the front. It's just that there's other stuff to do, and it's other stuff that needs to be done. Uh, I'm one of the people that's willing to sit in a facility and do stuff. Uh, you know, other people aren't. So if somebody else wants to go to the front, there are queues. So I'd rather sit back here.
I wouldn't really say that I got pushed away from frontline fighting, more as that I found the niche that I really enjoy. I love fighting on the front line. I love going infantry and going up there, fighting, being part of the push. I love loading artillery or driving tanks. Just recently, I was down doing ship combat. I love that kind of stuff. But when I just want to be like with myself, I just want to relax. I go do logistics. When I've had a rough day at work, I just want to go home, work the factories, go to a field, gather some materials. It's nice and relaxing, and there's definitely the moments where I love going to the front line and where like the front line creates the kind of memories that I definitely look back on. But what I find myself doing is that when I get back from work, when I'm tired, I just want to relax and I want to go to the school fields. I want to talk with some friends and I want to listen to some good music. And it gives me that feeling of simultaneously doing something in the war, making a difference, but while I'm able to just relax, take it slowly, and just enjoy my time.
Pretty much the entire queue system. I don't want to waste a precious slot for someone that doesn't know how to fight properly, that doesn't care enough about, I don't know, latency. If I could get in on a frontline logi, if I could have some reserve slots entirely for logi, that would be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Okay, so an example would be like there was this one guy who was climbing the rocks near the gallows to attack our mountain base, and he was really annoying because he was like just picking us off while we were trying to like build up. It's like, let's kill that guy, and you're fighting. There's like two of us versus one of him, and we're like trying to climb this mountain and climb these rocks and all this shit just to get this one dude. It's like chasing him around for an hour to kill this one dude. And then it's like, oh, we finally got him, yeah. And then like 10 minutes later, he's back in the same spot. And it's like, what the hell, man? Like, what's the point of like shooting and killing if they just come straight back? I don't know. I thought that was a really frustrating moment.
Well, in all honesty, I'm a pretty shit shot, all things considered. Like, look, if I was as good at shooting in this game as I was in real life, I'd probably be out there racking up kill streaks and winning the war by myself, right? But like just in the game, I just cannot get my head around the shooting mechanic. So generally what I do is I play like medic or something like that, because I'll leave the shooting to somebody else. But then also like today, there's just days where I just want to sit back here and do this and support the folks rather than like actually being at the front lines, because I just want to listen to YouTube videos on the side. But then, like tomorrow, I might get up and I'll be like, oh, I want to play Foxhole, and the thing that I want to do is run around with a fiddler.
The war aspect is viewed by some players as a recreational thing. Think they do sometimes to break the loop or test out the gear they've made. Good thing about Foxhole is that there are no rules and you can play the game any way you feel like. Main frustration of players who quit the game or give it a negative review on Steam always boils down to them not knowing what to do. The feeling of being rudderless in an ocean of possibilities. But the nice thing is that whatever you do, as long as you're not shooting your team, you are contributing, you are helping, and it is appreciated. If you decide to try out Foxhole, remember that there is a global chat, and if you need help, guidance, or just to talk, the global chat is there and just ask. This is exactly how I found people for this video. I've never met those guys before. And with that, I hope I've changed your mind about Foxhole. I really do think it has a place in the builder sim sphere. The real question is, what do you think? Thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, please drop a like and subscribe. Also, I stream on Twitch, Foxhole yes, but other stuff as well. So come over and say hi.